everybody. So we are so excited. We are here to give our wrap up for the fall movie season. And I am joined by my previewer from earlier and the movie extraordinaire, David Healy's here.
Hey, thanks for having me again, Rachel.
Yeah, thank you. And so David completely creamed me as far as movie watching in this season because I've been a little distracted with my Hallmarkies podcast. We've had this weekend will be the 25th new Hallmark movie. There's 4 this weekend, and that'll be 22, 23, 24, and 25. And it's just the first weekend of December. So it's taken a bit of my movie watching time. Let's just put it that way. So that's my only excuse, that I haven't seen a ton of these. But thankfully, David has seen many. And so some of these we'll talk about a lot. And some of these we'll just briefly give a smile-worthy, frown-worthy, whatever, to them. And so as you're watching, make sure you put in the comment section what you would rank smile-worthy or frown-worthy. And we're also going to give our individual rankings for the year for these movies. And so it'll be pretty fun. I'm excited. You excited?
Yeah. I just got Movie Pass in October. So
yeah.
That definitely boosts my movie.
Yeah. They're not making any money off you or me. No. Okay, so this is great. So let's just get started. So the first one we're going to talk about is actually one that I've seen. It's called Viceroy's House, and this is about the last viceroy of the British ruler, whatever, in India, and it was really pretty good. And it was cool because the director, his or her, I'm not sure actually, can't remember, him or their like family was part of this whole experience. Their aunts, her grandmother, grandfather. Anyway, she has this like really personal connection to the story. And so at the end, they show like pictures of her family, and it was kind of cool. And you could just see that personal experience as part of it. And I'm a huge like Anglophile. I love anything with like British royalty and whatever. So this is right up my alley. It had Hugh Bonneville from Downton Abbey. It had Gillian Anderson from X-Files and whatever. And so I enjoyed it. I would say smile-worthy.
Okay, I haven't seen this one. I see it has a 71% on Rotten Tomatoes. So
yeah, it's not like the greatest movie ever, but it was enjoyable. House at, where is it? I put Viceroy's House at 41 of my ranking.
That's pretty good.
So right there in the upper quadrant, I guess. So it was enjoyable. I have like a whole group that I just think are like solid, enjoyable films. And we're going in chronological order as much as possible. The next one is Tulip Fever. And so you saw this, not me.
Yeah, I saw this one. I think we were both kind of looking forward to it from our movie preview. But
it looked pretty steamy.
Yeah, it was a bit steamy. It had 10% on Rotten Tomatoes. So once I realized that, I went into it with low expectations, and I'm glad I did. It has a great cast, but wasted potential. Mm-hmm. Really, it reminded me of like Titanic plus Romeo and Juliet, but with a much more convoluted plot. The tulips were kind of like a motif that didn't matter at all, so I don't point of that. Cara Delevingne, she was wasted in the movie. They barely had her in it at all. Judi Dench was not utilized to her full potential, so I was pretty disappointed with it. This one I ranked, just for context, I've seen 114 movies from this year, so I put this at 99. So
okay, so
Tulip Fever, in case you didn't pick up, is a frown for me. And I've decided that this time what I'm going to do is, if I gave anything a C- or below, then it's going to be a frown for me. And I gave this a D. So frown.
That sounds good. That's basically kind of what I do. A film called The Napping Princess that I saw. And this is really pretty creative. And I think if you're a little kid, then you'll like it. It's very cute. But for me, I just found it kind of boring. It didn't quite work for me, even though it is beautiful. It's not terrible, but I would, in the end, give it a frown just because the story just wasn't there for me. Princess, I have it 71. So it's not terrible. It has a certain demographic that will like it, but just for me, I didn't love it. So
Okay. And it has a 67% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, that's fair. That's about right. Okay, next we have Home Again. And this was one that I was actually really excited for because rom-coms have just been so out of fashion the last little while. And I was just hoping that this would be a rom-com that would be return to form for Reese Witherspoon, who's done some of the best ever, I think, unarguably, in my opinion. And I don't know, it's Nancy Meyers, who I am honestly kind of mixed on, but it's Nancy Meyers' daughter, and so I just was just hopeful that it would be something that we haven't seen in a while from big Hollywood. And I was really disappointed in it, to be honest. It wasn't a romance. It wasn't, I didn't think it was funny. I didn't think the characters were interesting. I thought it was basically like a sitcom, and I did not care about these guys that at all. And I don't know, I just thought it was really lame, and I was just hoping for something that was romantic from a romantic comedy, and it wasn't. And so I give it a frown. I was pretty disappointed by it, even though Reese is good. And so I have it at 95 on my ranking.
Okay, see, we're pretty close, and I have it at 90. And I made a note that it's a romantic comedy without the romance and without the comedy.
Right.
So
yes.
We're on the same page there. Yeah, I thought it was somewhat of an intriguing premise, but executed pretty poorly.
Yeah.
I felt little investment in the characters.
Yeah. And Candice Bergen was like so unlawfully like ill-used. I mean, she's hardly in the movie at all. She could have been a lot of fun. Just it was a letdown for me. I'm glad it did like at least marginally well. So hopefully maybe we'll get some better, because I love the genre. Obviously, I like blog, I podcast about Hallmark. Clearly, I did not see it. I chickened out.
No, I was really hoping you'd brave it out.
No.
Okay, so I loved it. I think it's about as good of a book adaptation as you could get. It was worth seeing twice for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it were just great. They really felt like kids. They didn't feel like kind of the adult version of what we think kids are. They felt like real kids just doing their thing, saying things that are natural.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think it was that scary, which for some people that could be disappointing. But it was still creepy enough that I really enjoyed it, and like I said, it was good enough to see twice. So yeah, it's way up there for me. It's actually my fourth.
Ah, awesome! That's great. So the 15th, we have American Assassin. So what you thought of American Assassin?
Yeah, American Assassin was one I was looking forward to based on the trailer. I like Dylan O'Brien. I thought it looked good, but then I got a 34% on Rotten Tomatoes, so my expectations were lowered. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it ended up being 91 for me. I was pretty disappointed. It's a movie that takes itself way too seriously. Dylan O'Brien's girlfriend or fiance is killed at the very beginning, so he's somber and serious throughout the whole movie. Mm-hmm. And it's missing the fun factor and humor that a lot of these type of movies have, and it really needed it because it was just serious the whole time. There were good action scenes, but it wasn't enough to make up for it.
So where'd you have it at? Again?
I have it at 91, so it's a C- 91. And a frown.
Yeah. All right, so Mother. That was a controversial one.
Yeah, Mother got an F cinema score, so that actually made me more intrigued to see it. It had 68% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Uh-huh.
So I went to see it, and I thought it was brilliant.
Ah, interesting.
Really loved it. So basically, I think that the audiences didn't understand it. It's a very allegorical movie. It has a lot of symbolism.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me about halfway through the movie to pick up what it was symbolizing. But once you know, it makes it so fascinating. And it's a movie that once I think everybody should watch it once and try to understand what it's representing, and
Mm-hmm.
then once you know, watch it again, which I did. I watched it twice. I loved it both times. So it's actually my third highest movie of the year.
Wow. Great. Okay.
And
Yeah,
I
it's one
think,
of those divisive ones.
yeah, it's weird for me because like I think that you would really appreciate the movie,
Mm-hmm.
but it does get very graphic and violent near the end of the film.
Yeah.
But I think it's necessary. So I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah, I it's one of those ones that's it does sound kind of intriguing, but I didn't end up seeing it. But I didn't do very well in September, clearly, as we're gonna see. So then there was the Battle of the Sexes, which I really want to see, but I don't know. I can't even remember what was happening in September, but whatever, I missed it. But I definitely want to catch up on it. What do you think of Battle of the Sexes?
Yeah, this is one you need to see. Emma Stone is Billie Jean King. You love to love her, and Steve Carell is Bobby Riggs. You love to hate him,
Mm-hmm.
which is exactly what you want for these adversaries here. Um, really, I think Steve Carell becomes a parody of himself with over-the-top sexism throughout the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So it just makes it very satisfying when he meets his comeuppance, which I'm sure that's not a spoiler. People know.
Right. It's a historical event. So
Yeah, it's about as good of a biopic as you could hope. So I'd highly recommend it. I put it at 25 for the year. That's an A minus for me. So
yeah, that's one of the ones I can't remember if I had a family thing or whatever. It's sometimes you miss a weekend, and we'll see that later with one that really I'm so sad I haven't seen. But like you miss a weekend, and then there's like new movies to see, and so like it's really hard to sometimes catch up, and that's kind of what happened to me with Battle of the Sexes. But so the next one, we have two more in the row that I didn't see, but Brad's Status, and I've heard nothing but great things about this one. What do you think?
okay, well you're about to hear something else.
You didn't like it, huh?
No, I mean it has an 81% on Rotten Tomatoes. My roommate really liked it, so I was with things. I didn't enjoy it. I put it at number 87 for the year.
Okay.
So not very great.
Not high. What didn't you like? What didn't work for you?
Basically, the movie's following this character, Brad, who he's not happy with his social status, I guess. He's middle class to upper class, but he wants so much more. He wants to be rich like all of his rich friends. He wants to be famous like his famous friends. And he's just not satisfied where he is in his life. He wants his son to go to a prestigious college. And it's just hard for me to relate to this character who has a very good life.
Right.
And just complaining because he wants more. It made this character very unlikable for me.
First world problems, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. And there's one point in the movie where he's kind of venting to somebody, and the person says, well, I don't have any sympathy for you because things are great in your life. And that was the most emotional response I got. Like I was vigorously nodding my head along with this character.
Yeah.
So if the protagonist had been more likable, then maybe it would have worked for me. But I just couldn't relate to him at all. So it couldn't. You know.
Yeah, and Mike White, he does tend to write that way, in my opinion, and it can be very hit and miss. I thought that Beatrice at Dinner this year was terrible, and it really made me mad. It's just one of those movies that I just got more and more irritated as I was watching it. I'm just like, these people, and it was just so like ham-fisted in its like political message. Next was Kingsman Golden Circle. This was a big letdown to a lot of people, it seemed like. I didn't see the first one. I haven't seen this one.
Okay. I could see how it was a letdown for most people. It wasn't really a letdown for me. It wasn't as good as the first. I love the first. It's one of my favorite movies of 2015. But it didn't match up to that level. But at the same time, it was a lot of fun for me. Some pretty cool action scenes. I like Julianne Moore a lot in it. Um, but the person who stole the show was Elton John. I don't know if you knew that he was in it, but
I remember hearing that.
yeah, his character, well, he plays himself in it. Anytime he shows up, like I was cracking up. He's great in it. So I gave it an A minus, and I have it at 21 for the year.
Cool. This is so exciting. I saw the Lego Ninjago movie, and I didn't like it. And one of the movies I saw in September. Actually, September was bad for me because I saw Home Again. I saw Lego Ninjago. I thought the Lego Ninjago. I loved the cat. The cat was hilarious, but it all felt so derivative to me, and I don't know. I just didn't think it was funny. I felt like the Lord Darmagan or whatever his name was. That was such a copycat of like President Business and so many other like villains like that. I felt like it was like inconsistent. Like, are these characters cool or are they losers or are they whatever? It was, at certain points they were both, and I don't know. I didn't think it was visually very inventive, except for the cat. I thought it was so hilarious. I thought it was kind of dull and boring, and I just didn't really like it. It was disappointing to me. The Lego Ninjago movie ended up at 96 on my ranking.
Wow.
Yeah, I just didn't think it was very good. I thought it was sort of warmed over ideas that had been done better in Kung Fu Panda movies. It had been done better in I don't know, even in like Power Rangers earlier this year was better, similar ideas. I don't know. There's just a lot of different movies I felt had done what they did better, including Lego Movie and Lego Batman Movie. And, I don't know. So that's where I have it, 90 at 96.
Okay.
Brown.
Yeah, and I thought I was being harsh on the movie, but you took it to a new level. Actually, for the year, and I even made a note though that I should probably lower this in my rankings. I think it's by far the weakest of the Lego movies so far, all three of them. There's too many characters, and in the ensemble, like they don't stand out, most of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's bad. We didn't have that problem with the other two movies. Like sure they were more established characters, but you knew who each of them were. Like they stood out personality wise.
Yeah.
There were a few good laughs, but
the cat, right? Cat was funny.
Yeah. And I thought the Lloyd thing was funny, but I had already seen it so much in the trailers.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was disappointing. I put it at a B, but like I said, I probably need to lower that in my rankings because it hasn't held up over time.
Maybe part of it is that I'm just tougher on. I'm lenient on animation in certain ways because it's sort of my life, but then I'm also tougher on it when it disappoints. I'm tougher on it when it disappoints me in a way, I guess. Creepers 3. What is that? I hadn't even heard of that.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, I didn't even know it came out.
Yeah. Well, there were two other Jeepers Creepers movies in the early 2000s.
Yeah, I'd heard of the franchise. I just didn't know this new one came out.
Yeah. Well, 14 years in the making, so I thought it might be a good thing finally to happen. But there was a big controversy because I guess it came out that the writer-director had molested somebody, an underage person. So the movie kind of got swept under the rug, and it was only released in theaters for one day. Well, then they decided to release it a second day. So I thought that was the only reason that the studio wasn't pushing this. But then I watched it and I realized, okay, they also weren't pushing it because it's really, really terrible.
Yeah, that's a danger with horror. I feel like particularly there's a lot of good ones, but then there's
Yeah, it was inconsistent with the other movies. It didn't have any there was nothing redeeming about it. And this is from somebody who likes horror movies, even if they're bad sometimes. But this was just bad and not in an entertaining way. It was a big, big letdown for me. And I have it at 114 for the year.
Yeah, bottom, huh?
very bottom.
Nice. All right. So next we have American Made, and this is one I really want to see, but I just haven't yet. I've heard it's really good, but what did you think?
Yeah, it's one of Tom Cruise's better recent roles, I think. It's a crazy story. Like, when you realize this is all true, it really happened. It's not a movie that really stuck with me. I liked it at the time, but it hasn't left a lasting impression with me. So,
you think I'd like it?
I did like it. I liked it enough, but I didn't love it. It's 7 for the year for me. That's not awful, but it's not very good.
It's smile worthy.
Yeah, I'll give it a smile.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it looked good. It was just one I missed.
It's not necessarily my type of movie.
Okay. Well, the next one I've actually seen. This is very exciting. So this is called Window Horses. This is an obscure animated film, but it's really cool. We actually did a Chicks on Flicks podcast about it, if anyone's interested. But it's really good. It's about this young woman who writes her own book of poetry, and she ends up entering this contest that takes her to Iran, which to be part of this poetry festival in Iran. She's from Canada. She's Chinese, Persian, Canadian, whatever. And her father was Iranian and left their family when she was little, and then her mother passed away. And so going to Iran is like this really spiritual experience for her. And like, it's really cool because it has a really unique artistic style. It's very neat. And also they tell all of these sort of legends or famous poetry or whatever intermixed in between her story in Iran. And it was very emotional. It was very personal. It was funny at times. It's just a lovely little movie. So it's one I'd recommend. Honey Down. It's directed by, one really cool thing, if you're an animation fan this year, is we had 3 films, all indies, but that were directed by women, which is kind of a big deal, like in animation. That's not that usual, so it's sort of exciting for us. This is directed by a woman named Anne-Marie Fleming, and I think she did a really good job. So it's a good movie.
This is the first of 3 movies that we're talking about that have a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, it's yeah. I have it at number 15 on my ranking, and it's really solid. I like 29th was Flatliners. This got. I was gonna see this, but I didn't end up. But man, it got trounced by the critics. They did not like this at all.
Yeah, this has the lowest Rotten Tomatoes score of all of the movies we're discussing. It has a 5%.
Woo!
So yeah, I was really looking forward to this. I thought it looked interesting, but it was pretty disappointing. I think the movie had an identity crisis. It didn't know what kind of movie it wanted to be. Like, it had horror elements at times, and then it had like these sci-fi elements, and I just wanted consistency.
Well, and I heard that there were elements of it that, like, it felt like a remake, but then there were others that it felt like a sequel, and so it was sort of muddled that way also.
Well, it had a character from the original movie. Kiefer Sutherland was in it, like, briefly. So.
So it's a sequel technically, but
sequel / reboot. I don't know.
That's confusing.
But yeah, they wasted a lot of potential here. Like, even one of the best characters they had, they killed off halfway through the movie. So, yeah, it was pretty disappointing. Despite that, I still have it at 84. I mean, I was somewhat entertained, even though I was disappointed. But it's a frown for me.
Yeah. Interesting. So next we have Super Dark Times. I've not heard of this one.
Yeah, this movie only was released in 21 theaters, and fortunately, it was released at one of the theaters in my town. So I went to check it out. I had just heard of it and went to see it without hardly knowing anything about it. It has a 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, so that was a good sign. And I actually really love this movie. It's another movie it's about a group of young boys that are just being young boys and kind of find themselves in this dark situation when things go awry, when they're just being playful.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of reminds me, it's like a mixture of The Good Son. I don't know if you ever saw that.
I didn't see it, but I remember hearing about it with Macaulay Culkin.
It's like The Good Son meets Stranger Things, minus the sci-fi
Oh, okay.
aspect. It just feels very real and natural how these kids act, and it gets very, very intense. Like, it's one of the more intense movies I've seen in quite a while. I think the last movie where I've been like so on the edge of my seat was Nightcrawler.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I highly recommend this when it comes out on DVD.
Cool.
Which I think it's coming out on DVD very soon, or it might have already come.
Cool. Yeah. 19th? Cool. That sounds great. And Abdul. So this is another one we've both seen. I was actually really excited for this because I'm an Anglophile. I love all things British. And I really love Her Majesty Mrs. Brown, where Judi Dench also plays Queen Victoria. And it was a big disappointment, and I didn't like it. Yeah, I didn't like it. I thought that it was very patronizing to Abdul and the Indian characters. I thought that it treated them like children, and that annoyed me very much. And I don't know, I thought it was kind of just unpleasant. I didn't enjoy it. And I'm like a huge fan of the genre, obviously. And so, yeah, it was pretty low for me. I didn't like it.
Well, maybe this is a case of where your expectations were, because I had pretty low expectations, and I found myself really enjoying it. I think for me, the perfect word to describe the movie is charming, which I disagree, but just the interaction between these two characters, like, it brought a smile to my face. I felt like the plot was a little bit cyclical with these people coming to the queen saying, hey, you need to get rid of this guy, and her defending him, and it just happened over and over and over and over throughout the movie. But despite that, I thought it was really well made.
It was well made. I'll give you that, definitely. I mean, Stephen Frears knows how to make a period piece for sure. I don't know. I just thought they were very patronizing to these Indian characters, and that's what kind of annoyed me the most. Like, look how funny you say things. Isn't that funny? And I mean,
I think that might have been true to the time. So for people that were ignorant to this different culture from them, and I thought it was a good thing that it showed Victoria appreciating his culture and wanting to learn more about it. That didn't feel patronizing to me, at least for her character. So
yeah, interesting.
I disagree with you.
How dare you? So I have this at 98. I didn't like it. I was very disappointed. So yeah, there you go. Where did you have it?
45.
45. All right. Watch Out is another one I have not heard of.
Okay. Well, this is actually like kind of a holiday movie, but it's not a Rachel.
Yeah.
It's not a Rachel movie. Exactly. I would recommend this to most people, but I wouldn't recommend it to you. It's kind of a dark Christmas movie.
Okay.
It's about a babysitter and this boy that she's babysitting, and an intruder comes into the house. So they're trying to figure out what's going on and remain safe. So it's a bit dark, and there are a lot of twists along the way that keep you guessing. It's not straightforward like you would expect it to be. So I thought it was a lot of fun. My roommate and I watched it, and we both really enjoyed it. Yeah, it does, like, it's a pretty hard R rating. So there's definitely language and drinking and drugs and violence. So it's not for the faint of heart, but if you can get past that and you like kind of funny, dark Christmas movies like Krampus, except darker probably, I would recommend it. So this one I have at 54 for the year. So it's a smile for me.
Where do we have Blade Runner 2049? And this I thought was it was kind of, the first time I saw it, it was kind of a grueling experience because I watched it, like it was a good experience, but it was very exhausting because I watched the first one, which I admire and I think's good, but it's very, to me, very boring. And then I watched this, it was a marathon. So I watched the Blade Runner and then Blade Runner 2049. So by the time I finished both those movies, I was pretty spent. And but I think that this is a significant improvement over the first movie. I really do. I think that it's more interesting. I think that it's a little better paced, although it has some of those issues. It is, I don't know, I just thought it was just better. I guess I kind of reached like Blade Runner burnout by the time I'd seen it twice, and I had done a whole podcast on Blade Runner, and so I just need like a little bit of a break from these movies for a little while. But it's a good movie. I have it very high, and it's not like my favorite genre of movies. It's not one I'm going to want to own on DVD, but can't deny that it was a very good movie. And Harrison Ford was great in it, I thought. Jared Leto, I don't know. But I thought Robin Wright was great in it. Had other great performances. Ryan Gosling was really good. I liked the hologram woman person. She was good. So I put Blade Runner 2049 at number 19. I have it pretty high.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought visually it's a beautiful movie. Very well made.
Mm-hmm.
The special effects are great. And that's kind of what the appeal for the first one was, too. Like, the special effects were way ahead of their time.
Yeah.
But for me, what both movies have in common is the story I really don't care about. Like,
yeah.
It doesn't hook me, and it's kind of a chore for me to watch both of these plot-wise. So, yeah, I was in the theater watching this, trying my best to stay awake.
Yeah, it does have issues. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know. It's a weird one for me to rank because I really admire it, and I think both movies, both Blade Runners are saying interesting things, and they're movies you can think about and sort of ponder and I don't know. I struggle with my ranking on this one. I really do because I totally get it. It was kind of boring,
right.
Especially with them two together. That was woo.
It is ranked at 71 for the year, which
Yeah.
is a C plus. I can't fault it much more than that.
Yeah.
Personal preference, it didn't really do much.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It does what it's trying to do, I think, pretty well, but it could be a little tighter. But I guess maybe I did give it a little bit more props just because I do think that it is a step up from the original film. Do you think it's better, or do you think it's about the same?
Yeah, I think it's better, yeah.
Yeah. Roger Deakins deserves the Oscar. Let's just give it to him. He's deserved it for all these years, and it is beautiful. I don't know how anyone could deny that that's amazing cinematography. Loving Vincent, and this was the animated film that was done on all oil paintings, so this one is a great achievement in that they made this, and it is beautiful, and it's not a bad movie, but I don't think it's actually a very good movie, unfortunately. And that's hard for me to say because I always try to champion these indie animated films. But the story, and like, I don't mind a movie that has no story and is just like an artistic experience. I can appreciate that, but that's not what this is. This tells a story, but it tells a pretty bad story. And so I'd almost wished it was just these images and it was just like an art piece, like I'm saying. I would have preferred that than this story of this guy looking into the death of Vincent van Gogh, really insightful about suicide or mental health or Vincent van Gogh or artistry or painting or anything. And so it's just kind of like this lame episode of Law and Order with these pretty visuals. So
in our preview podcast, I was kind of afraid that it would be all visual and not have a story to back it up. And I think I was right. It felt more like a podcast to me. It's a lot of narrations and these characters explaining things. It's just talking. So it's something that if you weren't seeing it and you were just listening to it, it would just seem like any type of serial type podcast. That doesn't make for a good movie for me. And I think the novelty of the oil paintings, it wore off quickly.
Yeah.
Honestly, the part that I enjoyed the most was at the very end when it showed the original paintings and next to it, it showed the character in the movie that they based off of the original paintings by Van Gogh. I do think that at least within the past few years, this is the hardest time I've had staying awake during a movie.
Yeah.
So there really wasn't much positive for me, other than the achievement, like you said. But this is one of my least favorite movies of the year. I actually gave it an F.
Ooh, an F, huh?
Yeah, it's 110 for me.
Okay, fair enough. I get it. I would give it like a C minus, which is disappointing because I was really looking forward to this, and I just feel like they were so close, like if they just done a few little things, I think, differently and made like a more likable lead character, like focused. The movie is not about Vincent van Gogh. Like that could have been interesting, and certainly the end of his life could have been interesting, but this guy going around asking questions like some investigator, that just wasn't interesting and it wasn't good. And like I said, I don't mind artistic movies, but I don't like either go all that way for me personally or like do a good story. Like 91, which is pretty disappointing for me. That's pretty low for something I do think is an achievement in a way. So we have the My Little Pony the movie, and I think this is finally one that I've seen. Well, I guess we've done a few that I've seen you haven't seen, but I actually really liked it. I thought it was really good. I don't care what Rotten Tomatoes says. I thought that it was charming. I thought it was a sweet story about friendship. I mean, I like these characters and I like this series, and I thought the music was really solid. I liked it. Has Broadway level professionals, which was so refreshing in like years of musicals that like the singing sucks. And so that was fun. Ty Diggs, Kristen Chenoweth, and all the other singers were good. They had all the original voice cast from the series, which was great. And overall, I just thought it was a sweet little story. I enjoyed it. I thought it was one of the better mainstream animated films of the year. And so I gave My Little Pony the movie. It's definitely small worthy for me, and it's at 36 on my ranking. I did a full podcast with Paleostino, who's like an awesome YouTuber, on My Little Pony movie that if you haven't seen it and you like the series, then you want to check out that podcast. So the next was the Florida Project. I did not get to it this week. I tried, but it was only playing at one theater and at like really weird times, so I didn't get to it. But I know it's supposed to be real good. You're a big fan of the Florida Project?
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I'll go ahead and tell you I put it at 24 for the year. It's an A- for me. I think this is definitely going to be something that's getting a lot of award season love, at least nomination. It almost feels like a documentary. From what I understand, the director, this is his second film. He did a different one called Tangerine, and he'll have no problem shooting a film on an iPhone, which part of this movie was shot on an iPhone. But the acting feels so natural. Like it follows these kids that live in a motel, basically. It just follows their interactions. It's really funny. At the same time, it's very heartbreaking too at times. So just all of the acting's natural. Willem Dafoe, I think he's definitely getting an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor. And so far, he's who I would want to see win. My only complaint, though, is that it takes a little while to see where it's going plot-wise. And then once it does, the stakes get really high. It gets very dramatic. And then I don't think the director had the guts to follow through with the story he created. and it feels like they just basically phoned in an ending instead of facing the consequences of what they built up.
Mountain between us. This was one of our mountain cinematic universe movies that we talked about. Yeah, and this movie is very dopey. It is a very dopey romantic survival story, but luckily for this movie, I like very dopey romantic survival stories. And I can't really defend it except for the fact that I just thought it was silly and fun, kind of, and stupid, but I enjoyed it. And so, yeah, and it's certainly bolstered by good, two good actors that are in it. But it was basically a Lifetime movie, which is a step down below Hallmark movie for me. But it was. And it was too steamy to be a Hallmark movie. But anyway, I ended up with this at 63 on my ranking, and I would give it a very marginal smile worthy. If you like this kind of movie, then you'll like it, I think, enough to enjoy it.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of a waste of potential with
the
actors. True. And basically, there was nothing groundbreaking about it. There wasn't. No. It was fine for me, but yeah, I thought the romance element was kind of out of left field, and I don't think it did anything to make the movie any better.
Yeah, it's not great, but it's just kind of a stupid, silly movie for me. So where do you? Sorry.
Yeah, 86 for the year, so it's a C-, so I'll give it a frown. Okay. It's not awful.
I can understand that completely. Batman versus Two-Face, and this was, I think it only had like a 1 or 2 day release in the theaters, but this is the follow-up to the Return of the Caped Crusaders, which was a vintage classic style Batman 66 movie, animated, with Adam West, Burt Ward, the whole crew. And this is the follow-up. And I thought this was super fun. I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was better than the Caped Crusaders, which I also enjoyed. I loved William Shatner's performance. I thought he did a brilliant job as Two-Face. He was so fun and got those nuances between the two different sides of Two-Face really well. And you have Batman in this sort of conflicted moment, even this Batman of like, well, he likes the good side of Harvey Dent, but he obviously hates Two-Face. And it had some good gags, but it wasn't overly reliant on gags. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun and nice to hear Adam West last time as Batman.
Right. Yeah, and this is the second movie that we've discussed that has a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Of course, it didn't have many reviews, but yeah, I really liked this. I didn't know about the Caped Crusader, so I thought this was like a one-time thing. But I really liked how, I like Burt Ward, Adam West, Julie Newmar, all of that. Because I really enjoyed the '60s Batman. I have all of the episodes on DVD. So this was great for someone like me, because they drew the characters just like they were in the TV show. Like, I'm seeing King Tut, and I'm like, that's exactly what King Tut looked like in the '60s TV show.
Yeah, that was fun, the way they brought in some of those characters like that. They have that librarian, the bookworm. That was fun.
Right. Yeah, it was fun, but at the same time, I felt like it was starting to get too much, because there was literally about 10 different Batman villains in this movie. So I felt like at times it lacked direction. It seemed like it kept jumping to different plots, which overall they were related, but I felt it could have been a little bit more focused. But despite that, I really liked the winks and nods to Batman fans like myself. So I really enjoyed it. I say I really enjoyed it, but I still gave it a C. So it's at 73 for me for the year.
That's fair. 60 on my ranking. So yeah, it's not like the greatest movie I've ever seen, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah. So, okay. So next, I guess Goodbye Christopher Robin. And this makes
See it, and this is very much a Rachel film. Like, I know you'll enjoy it. It seems like this is a popular thing to have movies about the uh, uh, origins of A Christmas Carol. So it's a pop,
Yeah.
but I can absolutely see why this was made into a movie. It's a story worth telling. It has a lot of charm and a lot of heartbreak to it. The two main characters, father and son, are both dealing with different things. The father's dealing with his PTSD from the war, and the son is dealing with his newly found fame as Christopher Robin. Um, so it's very intriguing, well made. I like Donald Gleason a lot. I just figured out that's how you say his name. You don't pronounce the N. But
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I would recommend it to movie fans. I gave it a 50. I ranked it at 50.
We have Six Below, Miracle on the Mountain. And this is our second in our Mountain Cinematic Universe. And I actually think this has a lower score, I think, than The Mountain Between Us. But in my opinion, I actually think this is the better movie. It has some major problems, but it's more just about him surviving. It's more of a survival movie and doesn't have the dopey romance. So it depends on what you like, I guess. But he does get pretty grueling at certain points. He actually, well, never mind. I don't want to gross you out. But there's a pretty gross thing that happens that he does, and he goes for it. This Josh Hartnett, he really commits to the role, which I give him credit for. There's definitely some major cringeworthy elements. It's like can't quite decide whether it wants to be a faith-based film or not, because then there's those kind of more definitely. I would not recommend this to like my very sensitive Christian friends. No way. Authentic to the character, because he's like really there's a scene where he gets pushed like under the water in the frozen water, and like his bag of like meth he's like floating in the water, and instead of like desperately trying to get out of said cold water, he's like grabbing for his bag. It's really stupid, but so like I don't know. There's just some like it's just sort of a weird. Maybe that's authentic to the character, but it seemed ridiculous to me that like he's like floating for this plastic bag. I actually have Six Below at number 80 on my ranking. It's I don't know. It's watchable, but it's messy, if that makes sense. My getting out of my comfort zone movie that I was very proud of. I went and saw Happy Death Day on Halloween. And
I'm proud of you.
Yes, right? And I really liked it. I thought it was super fun. And like people are so grumpy when it comes to horror movies, because I thought this was really fun. I thought 47 Meters Down was really fun. And like, I don't know. I guess maybe I should have weird taste in horror movies, because
Have you heard that people don't like it? Because I've mostly heard positive things about it. That's 71% on Rotten Tomatoes.
oh, isn't that high? Yeah, like a bunch of my like, I guess maybe in YouTube world, a bunch of my YouTube friends were like all grumpy about it. And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I just don't watch that many horror movies, because to me it was a good time at the theater. I liked it.
Yeah, I thought it would be hard to keep this kind of premise fresh, because we've seen so many movies like this. But I thought they did a good job. Like this had the whodunit element added to it as well. So you're constantly guessing, like, who is it that's killing her? And they had some pretty good twists that kept you guessing along the way. So I really enjoyed it. I would recommend it. I think the trailer gave a little bit too much away, but besides that.
Yeah, like I guess some people saw the twist, but I didn't, and it wasn't an annoying twist. It was just a fun twist, and it's just a good time. It was perfect maybe to see on Halloween.
Right.
So I have it at 43 in my ranking.
Okay. I have it at 34.
So pretty close.
But I like horror more than you. So.
Yeah. Marshall, do you see that?
Yes, I did.
What do you think?
Well, it was less of a biopic than I expected. It's really just about this one case that Thurgood Marshall's working on, which actually he's not even the lead lawyer. He's not even allowed to speak in the courtroom. So
Hmm.
it's really Josh Gad who's the primary lawyer,
Hmm.
and you have Chadwick Boseman helping him out along the way. But it was really good.
Hmm.
Like I said, it's just this one case, so it's almost like a long episode of one of those Law and Order shows. But it worked for me. I thought it was a great performance from Josh Gad, especially. Um, Nothing groundbreaking, but enjoyable. I'd
Yeah.
recommend it. Yeah,
Cool. I need to catch up on that one. I'm ranking for Marshall.
50,
50.
which
Perfect.
it's a smile for me.
Okay, cool. So next up with The Foreigner. And this was Jackie Chan. And I really thought this would be a bigger hit than it was, because I just thought that it would fit that kind of like Liam Neeson sort of action. Thought that Jackie Chan could kind of fit that role. Martin Campbell directing. Like, I don't know. I thought it would do better. And now that I've seen it, I'm surprised that it didn't do better. I thought it was actually pretty solid. I thought the Pierce Brosnan character didn't go exactly the way that I thought it would in his character. He wasn't just like a mole or something kind of. There's a little more to him, I thought, than you typically see. I think they could have done a better job of developing Jackie Chan's character, making him a little more interesting. But I think it's hard because of the language barrier, for him to like have a lot of dialogue and stuff like that. But it's definitely on the sort of violent side for my taste. But I like that. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. It's not my type of movie per se.
Mm-hmm.
I do think Jackie Chan was a bit one note. But yeah, it was still entertaining enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I would recommend it to people who like that kind of movie.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I gave it a C.
So
So
just
it's,
barely smile worthy.
yeah, smile worthy, but barely for
Barely.
me. It's at 83 for the year for me.
Okay. So for me, I have it at 59. We have the cinematic masterpiece of Geostorm. So for me, I thought, I did go into this with very low expectations because the trailers were horrific. The first third was super boring and super generic and not fun. The second third, I had a little bit of fun with because this plot to kill the president is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, and I thought it was so ridiculous that it made me laugh, and so I enjoyed it. And I think it was intentionally just so silly and just so ridiculous that it was fun. And then the third part was just like disaster porn, and I was bored. So overall, not a big fan of Geostorm, but it did have a few moments that I enjoyed.
Yeah, for me, it was actually worse than I expected. Because I thought it would be, like you told me, it's fun-ish. But
Did I? I gave you bad advice. Sorry.
I don't think it was that fun, to be honest. Like, I wanted like campy disaster movie.
You didn't think Ed Harris was just sort of ridiculous and kind of funny, like so over the top that.
But still, like, if you think about it, the main characters, they experienced the disaster once, and it was a lightning storm.
Yeah,
like,
that's fair.
In characters, and this is a spoiler a little bit, but the movie's called Geostorm. Guess what? Geostorm does not happen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. There's very little actual geostorming, if any. Yeah.
Geostorm is supposed to happen like once the countdown of the whatever.
Yeah, but I don't remember even saying that it was like it. I did think that middle part was I did think that was, I don't know, I did think that was a little bit fun because like the idea they literally are willing to like kill off millions of people, billions maybe, in order to become president of the United States. I'm like, surely there has to be a better way. Like, this is the most ridiculous premise I've ever heard. And so I was just like, what? Who wrote this? But yeah, it was bad. It was bad. The acting wasn't very good either, and it wasn't. I don't know. Like, disaster movies are not my thing to begin with. Even like the good ones are just not my thing typically. But this was bad.
But just think about this for a minute. 13% of critics thought this was a good movie. 13% of them.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't.
What's wrong with that 13%?
I don't know. Because, yeah, I mean, I can see having campy fun with certain elements of it. I really can. But the whole movie, like actually giving it, like recommendation, I don't understand. Cool. So, yeah, I have it at 114 out of 126, actually, was what I ended up, because I've added 2 since we've been talking. So yeah, I have it at 114 in my ranking. It's almost my bottom 10.
Okay. Yeah, I have it at 105, so almost in my bottom 10. Yeah. Actually, that is my bottom 10.
Is A Silent Voice. This is that anime film that I was telling you about. And this is a beautiful movie about, it's one of the female-directed films I was talking about earlier. It is an anime film that is about a bullying situation. But it's very creative because it takes the perspective of the bully in this case. And what happens is but it's not excusing him in any way. It's just, so it's looking at this character, and he is very cruel to this girl, this deaf girl who comes to the school when he's a young child in elementary school, basically. And she ends up moving away, and he ends up getting kind of ostracized after, because I don't know, it's just this backlash, I guess, to the way he treated her. And he ends up like going through this sort of repentance process, I guess, trying to become a better person. And as a teenager, he decides to search out for this girl. And they end up having this like weird connection because they're both kind of wounded characters in their own weird way. And it was just a beautiful movie. The score is definitely my favorite of the year. Beautiful. This is not for everyone, though. This is not for the casual anime fan. This is because there are a lot of things in it that are sort of specific to people that I think have a little bit of understanding of anime and a little bit of understanding of Japan and sort of the way they talk and the way they, at least in Japanese movies, what can I say? And it's long. So it's just not for everyone. It's 2 hours, 20 minutes. The pacing is definitely a little bit of a problem, but I was just so in love with the animation. I was so in love with the story, the message, the emotion, and the music. And it just has some of my most memorable scenes of a movie this year. So I love it, but I flat out would not recommend it to everybody. Have it very high in my ranking at number 5.
Wow.
For me. I think it's really special.
Nice. Is that the highest one so far?
Yeah, it's my highest one so far. Jane, I haven't heard of Jane.
Jane, okay, that's actually a documentary about Jane Goodall.
Oh, okay.
Are you familiar with her?
Yeah.
They have this never before seen footage that basically covers her first several years interacting with chimps, not chips. Yeah, it shows her eating chips. No, but it's pretty fascinating to see. Like, she's such an iconic person when it comes to chimpanzees, and you're seeing her very first moments out there in the wilderness, seeing these chimps and gradually getting closer and closer to them. You see her first moments with her future husband, who came out there for National Geographic. You see her raising her baby. It's a pretty cool thing that they were able to get all of this footage and build this documentary from it, and it's getting a lot of great hype. I would not be surprised if it won an Oscar, to be on 9% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, nice. Who's the hater?
Yeah, one hater. Yeah, I ranked it at 72 for the year. Nice.
Okay. And then Jungle. I also haven't heard of that one.
Okay. Jungle is kind of an independent film starring Daniel Radcliffe. and it's about these three guys who go to South America, and they decide to go backpacking through the jungle, and they end up getting lost, and it's about them trying to survive. And it's based on a true story. But yeah, I really like Daniel Radcliffe in these type of independent films like Horn, Swiss Army Man. Those are two of my favorite movies of the decade, to be honest.
Wow. Okay.
It was a little bit of a letdown for me. I think it's probably because it was based on a true story, so they were limited with what they could really tell.
Uh-huh.
So it wasn't as fantastical as a lot of his other more recent films have been. But despite that, it was still pretty good. It kept my interest. So I gave it a C, and it's 74 for the year for me.
Only the Brave, and this I did see. And this I thought was really good. It was very emotional. I didn't know, I specifically didn't read up on the true events before, so because I wanted it to surprise me a little bit, I guess. And I mean, I kind of knew, but I didn't know details, and so it was definitely emotional. I thought it was well done, very well acted, and I thought that they did the special effects of the fire very convincingly. It was very impressive, and yeah, I liked it. I think I ranked it at number 29.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
Yeah, just like you, I didn't read up on this. I wanted to go into it not knowing what to expect, really, which I think I had fewer expectations than even you did. One of my friends told me that she was just bawling by the end of the movie. So
I cried. Did you cry?
I didn't, but I don't know why. I was still like emotionally touched.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's a very heartbreaking story. Especially there's one scene, I won't give too much away, but there's one scene near the end in a gymnasium, and that part like really tugged at my heart. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
this is the machismo that a lot of the characters had. It kind of got grating, but I guess that's understandable for the type of work that they're involved in. They're just a bunch of macho men trying to be manly and all this. But yeah, and I thought some of the side characters were a little bit hard to distinguish from each other. But overall, yeah, I really liked it, and I would recommend it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had this at 58 for the year.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. I joked with my friend who I saw it with. I was like, we need to go eat like steak or something after this movie. I agree about the machismo. That's very true. Next, we have The Snowman. Snowman got crucified by the critics. What did you think?
Okay, yeah, Snowman had an 8%, which is the second lowest Rotten Tomato score out of all these movies. Yeah, it was extremely disappointing for me. I was hoping it would be the next 7, but it wasn't. It wasn't scary. It wasn't intriguing. There were a lot of inconsistencies. I was bored a lot of the time. Michael Fassbender didn't have the charisma that he usually has. And this may be an unpopular opinion, but Rebecca Ferguson, I don't think she's a leading lady. I don't think she has any business being more than a side character. She belongs on TV, if anything, for me. I'm not a fan of hers. So yeah, there wasn't much to like about this movie. I gave it a D-. So
yeah.
It's at 108 for the year.
Yeah, it's weird about Michael Fassbender because he's a very talented actor. Nobody can deny it, but he's had a bad couple of years, really. I mean, I hated X-Men Apocalypse, but I don't know, just the last couple, he's had a lot of kind of stinkers that he's been a part of, and it's usually not his fault. Right. But yeah, it's kind of weird, strange. This one I really want to see, but I haven't gotten to see it yet because I love the director, Todd Haynes, and it's kind of cool to have a PG-rated live-action film. That's unusual. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a cute film. It feels very much like a book adaptation, though, which could be a good or a bad thing. The dialogue and the acting don't always feel natural. It feels like it's dialogue coming from a book that people wouldn't necessarily say. Um, Regardless of it, was still really interesting to watch these two parallel stories and see the similarities. I guess I should explain that. It's basically following these two deaf children, one in the 1920s, one in the 1970s. But you see how connected they are, and it's a really compelling story. So I definitely appreciated it, and I would recommend it. Yeah, it's a good film for people of all ages. So without being too kid friendly, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really want to see it because I love the director. So his last movie, Carol, I thought was very good.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, okay. Sorry. What did you have? Where did you have that ranked?
63 for the year. So it's a smile. C+ for me.
Jigsaw. This one you were pretty excited about, actually.
Yeah, I was excited about it. I'm a fan of the Saw franchise, so yeah, I was looking forward to this, and I think it's solid. It's solid for fans of Saw.
Mm-hmm.
It fits well into the franchise. It doesn't really bring anything new, which I didn't expect it to. But I think a lot of people had higher expectations. Like, it's been 7 years since we had a Saw movie. What makes this worth bringing back?
Mm.
And there's nothing really that made it worth bringing back, but I still enjoyed it for what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Objectively, it's not a great film, but it's not bad.
Right.
But yeah, I put this one at 65 for the year.
Cool. Okay. So Suburbicon. I was going to see this, but then it got to bleh reviews. I don't know. I didn't get out to see it yet. But what do you think?
Yeah, this had a 28% on Rotten Tomatoes, so not great, but it was disappointing for me. I really like the Coen brothers. They're my favorite directors, and they didn't direct this. They wrote it, so I had high expectations just based on that. But I don't think it lived up to what they're capable of. It lacked a lot of the humor and quirkiness that those films had. I was entertained, but I was wanting more. So
yeah, I mean George Clooney hasn't directed anything good for a long time, especially his comedies. That was sort of my hesitation going into it because I don't know, movies like Leatherheads and stuff. They're just not great movies. His comedies, Men Who Stare at Goats, and I don't know, there's just not great. And so I was nervous about it. And to be honest, the Coen brothers haven't made a movie not made, but haven't been involved in a movie that I've really liked since Inside Llewyn Davis. And so they're on a bit of a slump. I think they need to, because I didn't love Hail Caesar. I didn't like Hail Caesar. I was very disappointed by it. So I don't know. Where'd you end up ranking this one?
Yeah, I put this one at 81, so it's a C, but it's just on the edge. So I'll give it a smile, but it's a weak smile. It's more like a meh.
A weak smile. Okay. Oh, thank you for your service. What did you think of this?
Okay. Objectively, it's a good film. I think it's an important film, just to kind of light on PTSD that these soldiers are going through. I actually saw this on Veterans Day, coincidentally.
That's cool.
Just saw it and I was like, oh yeah, it's Veterans Day. But I think it could have used some levity. It was pretty somber and serious throughout the whole movie, which, I mean, it's understandable. But yeah, I didn't even realize it was completely based on real people until the very end. I thought it was just kind of vaguely inspired by situations people have gone through, but it's about real life people. So the performances were solid. There's not a lot negative that I can say about it, but at the same time, it's not a movie I really enjoyed. So I gave it a C-.
Okay.
It's at 85 for the year for me.
So that's sort of your line in the sand there. It's like 84 is just barely fresh, very smiley. So yeah, I didn't get to see this one. Did you see Megan Levy this year? I was just curious what you thought of that. I actually thought that was pretty good. Enjoyed it. It was one of those few PTSD sort of type movies that I thought did it well. It wasn't heavy-handed. It wasn't too messagey. And it was just about this woman and her dog. So I thought it was good. Amityville: The Awakening. I didn't even hear about this one either.
Oh, really?
No, I didn't see ads for it or anything.
Yeah, I remember seeing the trailer for this in the theaters about 3 years ago. So it's been a long time, like, coming.
That usually doesn't bode well.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. So it's been delayed and delayed and delayed, and it's finally been released.
Wasn't it an awakening?
No, there was nothing new. I've only seen the Ryan Reynolds remake of Amityville Horror, so
Okay.
I'm not as familiar with the other movies, but this didn't bring anything new based on the one I've seen. It was a little bit more meta. Like at one of the characters has all of the DVDs of the Amityville Horror movies. So
they need to stay away from that house.
Yeah,
that's the lesson.
So it wasn't very scary. It wasn't very entertaining. So I put it at 106 for the year.
Okay.
So Brown.
Yeah.
D-.
Okay, and then A Bad Mom's Christmas.
Okay. I really liked Bad Moms. So I had high hopes for this. I was a bit disappointed with that. It's weird. We're gonna get to Daddy's Home too in a little bit, and I really compare these in different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. It had its funny moments. It's very crude, like the first one. So don't watch it. That's the way not to anybody else watch it. But, yeah. I think it kind of wasted potential a little bit here. There's not a lot that I can say about it, really. I did enjoy it. I'm underselling it, really, just because I was let down based on my expectations. But I still enjoyed it enough to give it a C+. It's a 64 for the year for me.
Okay. That makes sense. So next we have Lady Bird, which I did get to see this week. And it's a good movie. I liked it. I don't think it's the greatest movie I've ever seen. It's no Juno for me, but I did like it. I thought it was good. Good performances. I kind of wish that that the movie had been about the mom. I thought she was the most interesting character. I really thought Laurie Metcalf was tremendous in the role. I liked all the performances pretty much except for one. The only character that I was just like, was the second boyfriend character, because I loved Lucas Hedges in this. I thought he was great as the first boyfriend. He was wonderful, and he's a great young actor. I liked him in Manchester by the Sea. I liked him in 3 Billboards, which we'll have a discussion about that. And then in this, he's great. He's just a great actor, I think. Very good. And I think it has some definite true moments. I think the script is pretty good. These kind of super sullen, angsty teenage movies are kind of uncomfortable for me because it was totally me in high school. And I always feel like after I watch them, I always feel like calling my mom and being like, I'm sorry. You wouldn't never guess it, I guess now, but my mom had 2 babies when I was in high school, and it was I didn't like it. And I was pretty grumpy, and always having to deal with babies and all that stuff, and it was just not my thing, and I wanted to get out and I wanted to leave. And it was also kind of funny for me, this movie, because it was set in Sacramento, where my parents moved just after I graduated from high school. And so I've been to a lot of the stuff. I've been to the Tower Theater. I've been to a lot of the stuff in the movie, which was fun. And yeah, my only real flaws, I do think it should have ended at the airport. I think going on, I thought that was a little anticlimactic. Like, that was like the perfect ending, I think, is her leaving for college. I would have ended it there. And the second boyfriend was just like, blah, to me. He did nothing for me. He was very bland and boring.
The second boyfriend get some Oscar buzz, you know that, right?
Him for this role?
or Call Me by Your Name.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure that's a great. I really want to see that. But just in this role, I thought compared to the Lucas Hedges character, which was so great, I guess it was a little bit like, what is she doing with this loser? And he wasn't like interesting enough as a bad, like as sort of a destructive character. He was just like dumb, and I didn't like him. So anyway, but she's great. She's amazing. The music was really good. It was very entertaining for me. Even if I didn't think it was like the greatest movie I've ever seen.
Okay. Yeah, this is our third movie that has a 100%, which apparently it's the best reviewed movie of all time, according to Rotten Tomatoes. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. I think I liked it more than you. I thought a lot of the characters were relatable, not necessarily that I could relate to them, but I could see that almost anybody watching this movie could find a character that they relate to, which is a sign of a solid movie. It was very funny to me, like very quick witted.
Yeah, it's very funny.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And yeah, I liked everything about it.
Did you buy that she would become friends with this popular girl? That seemed like very against everything her character had been developed to be up to that point. Like that just came out of like, what? Where did that come from?
I did not buy it. If that makes sense. It didn't raise any red flags or alarms for me that happened. So it's weird for me. I don't have anything bad to say about this movie at all. But at the same time, it's not at the top of my list. I know my roommate has this at number 3 for the year, but for me, I put it at let's see here, 14. So it's really good, and I think it will be worthy of all the accolades it will get during award season coming up. But
yeah, I have it at 26. That's pretty high. I like it, and I agree. I think it is worthy of the accolades it will achieve. My Friend Dahmer. You saw that. I did not.
I did, yeah. Yeah, I saw My Friend Dahmer in Kentucky. Luckily, I was visiting for Thanksgiving, and there was a theater playing it because it didn't come to where I live. So.
Oh, okay.
It's an interesting movie. It didn't feel like it really had a point, like other than just to show what Jeffrey Dahmer was like as a teenager, which he was a very interesting person. I think the acting in it's pretty solid. It definitely kept me entertained. My sister really liked it, but I gave it a C+. It's at 66 for the year for me.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's an interesting movie to see over Thanksgiving.
Right? Yeah, saw it on Thanksgiving Day.
That's funny.
But like I said, it's him as a teenager, so it's before any murder. It actually ends with him meeting the first person he murders.
Oh, okay. All right. So then the killing of a sacred deer.
Okay, I was very skeptical about, well, I had a roller coaster. I was really excited about this movie when I first saw the trailer.
Did you love The Lobster?
That was the thing. When I found out afterwards, oh, this is by the same director who did The Lobster, then my expectations dropped.
Okay.
I didn't like The Lobster.
I didn't like it either.
This director has a style. He has people like deliver their lines as it sounds like they're going through a run through of the script, the way they read their lines. It sounds like they're reading their lines and they're kind of deadpan in their delivery. And this movie started out that same way. So I was already sitting in my chair, like upset. I'm like, this is going to be another one of these freaking movies that is just going to annoy me the way they're delivering lines.
Yeah.
But I eventually stopped noticing that. I don't know if it changed at all. But once I realized what the plot was, because the trailers were pretty vague, but once I realized what the stakes were, I was enthralled. It gets very intense. It's a movie about revenge. really. And it's not based in reality at all, like The Lobster. But yeah, it's just a movie that will keep you like waiting to see what's going to happen next. What's going to happen next? So yeah, I'd highly recommend it. I gave it an A-. It's 18. So yeah, I loved it. It's violent. It's darker than The Lobster. So it might not be for everybody. I don't think it's necessarily for you.
Yeah. But that's interesting to hear because, like I said, I don't know. I just thought The Lobster was also very repetitive, and it would have been like great as like a Twilight Zone episode, like 30 minutes, 45 minutes maybe. But like as a feature film, I was just like, oh my gosh, I get it. I understand what you're saying. By the end, I was just like very frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I get loneliness is a thing. I understand. Like.
Yeah, there's not much more I can say about the movie without giving too much away because I think it's more effective if you go into it not knowing what the stakes are really.
Yeah. Okay. So next we had Last Flag Flying. This is the latest Richard Linklater film. I'm a big fan of his. I know you're not, but I was. And I liked this movie. It's solid. I think for people that typically don't like Richard Linklater, I think that they will be more engaged in this than maybe his other more meandering films that I like. But my only problem with this, because it's definitely more of like a traditional narrative, and the performances are really good, especially Steve Carell is very good in it. But I felt like it was missing some of the Richard Linklater dialogue, which is what I love about him, the way that he writes his characters. And I didn't love the Bryan Cranston character. He was a little much for me. He was sort of, and Richard Linklater does typically have these sort of dude characters, that are like these machismo type characters in a lot of his movies. I get that. But I don't know, like for whatever reason, I just found him a little much, and I struggled with his character. But it's a good movie. I liked it, and not one of my favorite of his, but I think for some people it might actually be a favorite depending on how you feel about his other movies. So I have Last Flag Flying at 57.
Okay. Yeah.
We have Thor Ragnarok, and I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. I loved Loki. I loved Thor. I loved Hulk. I loved Valkyrie. Was amazing. I thought that it was just the best comedy of the year. I really liked it. And other people are like, oh, it's just a silly movie. I'm like, yeah, it's a good comedy. Hello. And I didn't feel like it was like wedged in like the way I did with Guardians 2. I felt like it was just consistently the same tone the whole movie, and I really liked it. My only flaws with the movie is that I thought that some of the special effects looked pretty bad. Like I thought that giant wolf thing looked terrible, and there were a few other little things that I didn't like. But for the most part, I was just thoroughly entertained. And
I've also seen it twice. I think it might be in my top 3 of these Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, alongside with the first Guardians of the Galaxy and the first Iron Man. So yeah, I was really impressed. It was hilarious. I loved all the new side characters. My favorite, I can't remember his name, is the big rock guy.
Oh yeah, Korg, I think.
Yeah, anytime he said anything, I was cracking up.
Hilarious. And that's the director.
Yeah, it is. It's the director.
It was so funny. Yeah.
His voice sounds so familiar, and then I looked him up and I'm like, oh, I don't know him, but he's the director. But yeah, there's nothing bad about this movie at all. 92% on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it deserves higher, personally. So yeah, I'd highly recommend this in case anybody hasn't seen it.
Yeah, like how dare Marvel make a funny comedy? Like what a horrible thing to do. Now, I loved it. I mean, I am a huge Loki and Thor fan. I love them. I enjoyed the other 2 Thor movies, but this is my favorite. I really like the first one quite a bit. This is totally different. But I also, I didn't like the way so many people in their reviews were like, oh my gosh, it's so much better than all the others, because I liked the others quite a bit. But I don't know. I was just thoroughly entertained, and that's the job of these kind of movies, in my opinion. They're supposed to entertain you, and I was entertained. So, so I have Thor Ragnarok at 13.
Okay,
Right?
I have it at 11, so we're pretty close there.
Yeah, we're in Pokemon I Choose You, and this is the latest Pokemon movie. I am not a Pokemon expert, I would say, but this was it has some controversial things that like the fandom is all upset about, because there's a point where the Pikachu actually talks, but it's in like a dream segment. I mean, come on, people. But like, and it's just like one tiny little part of the movie. Like, it's not through the whole movie. Anyway, so there's some controversy with it, but I thought it was okay. It's beautifully animated and it's fun, I think, but it was pretty slow at points. I got a little sleepy, I'm not gonna lie. And so I have Pokemon I Choose You at 68 in my ranking.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about Pokemon, so
Yeah.
I didn't get to do this.
Okay.
I didn't look strong here anyways, I don't think.
So then we had Daddy's Home 2. I have not seen the first Daddy's Home. And the trailer I thought was I hated the trailer for this movie. And it had some funny parts, particularly I think at the beginning. It was more, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to be like a good movie. And then it lost me. Once they go off to that cabin or whatever, I don't know. It wasn't funny to me anymore. And I just got kind of bored. And I don't know. I love a Christmas movie, clearly. So I was getting kind of like, and I don't know, Mel Gibson was a little much for me. He was a little awful and a horrible person. And that had some funny jokes at first, but after a while, you're just like, you're just being a jerk. Like, you're being a total jerk. And that wasn't really that funny for me. And so, yeah, in the end, I have this at 107.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I said that I compare this to a Bad Mom's Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
It's because they really follow pretty much the same story with these people. Their parents come to visit for Christmas. There's lots of conflict, and both movies end with the grandparents going on a trip to Las Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
So,
interesting.
Yeah, but I think the difference with this and A Bad Mom's Christmas is that I had pretty low expectations for this, and I actually found myself entertained. I did laugh quite a bit. I thought it was a cute film, nothing great, but I still gave it a C+. It's at 69 for the year for me.
Okay. I can see that, because like I said, especially the first part, I was like actually getting a little bit excited. I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be a fun."
I really like John Lithgow in it too.
Yeah. Did you think Mel Gibson was a little much though?
Yeah, I didn't buy. I don't know. I didn't buy his whole character. So.
Yeah. It's just like, ugh, you're a horrible human being. Like, what is wrong with you? I'm saying about the character. Maybe possibly the actor as well, but anyway. Okay, so then we had Murder on the Orient Express. This was in my top 10 most anticipated of the year. I love the book. I love the original film. And this was a disappointment. This was a big disappointment for me. I thought this movie was kind of not very good. It looks pretty, great cast. And I think that there's potential in Branagh's Hercule Poirot character, that he was pretty funny, especially like the very first scene before he gets on the train. That was like, oh, this is going to be great. Like, this is really fun. Like him figuring out this case, before he gets on the train. And then it just became so expository and really boring. I thought this movie was dull, and it wasn't an engaging mystery. It's not like they showed like, here's this clue, and like, oh, here's what might be a potential part of that clue. And I think part of the problem is that they focus too much on this other case in America that's part of the story. And the problem with that is that it becomes a lot of explaining. And there's literally the last 20 minutes of this movie is like all of the characters sitting down at this long table and him just talking for the whole, just talking. And it's like, oh, this is so boring. And I don't know, I was really let down. I didn't think it was good. And so I have Murder on the Orient Express at 99 in my ranking.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I think I benefited from never reading the book, not seeing the original movie, and not knowing anything about how it ended. So that definitely helped me appreciate this movie, because I thought the twist was like very unexpected, and I really appreciated it. There were points like probably halfway through the movie where I was slightly bored, but with such a good cast, I thought the performances were pretty strong, and I don't have much bad to say about it. I actually really enjoyed it. I gave it a B plus.
Okay.
32 for the year for me.
What'd you say for you?
32.
Okay, cool. And we have the 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. And so I'm not the biggest fan of dark comedies. So I'll put that out there in general. The worst movie I've ever seen is a dark comedy. And I hate it. Drop Dead Gorgeous. It was horrible. So it's general, not my genre. But there are a few exceptions that I like. But I didn't love this movie. And I know it's like super unpopular opinion. But I found there was just, I feel like the dark comedies that I get invested in, like something like Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, or other Coen brothers kind of movies. I felt like this was trying to be Fargo, but to me it was like Fargo light. And like the thing that's great about Fargo is that Fargo has Margie, which is one of the most compelling, interesting, warm, lovable, great characters ever written, in my opinion. And Frances McDormand, all the acting is good in this. But I just found everybody so unlikable and so like, to me, I said in my review on my blog that I felt like this movie was very voyeuristic, and that like there's all of these people that are very like angry and upset. And I'm not saying they don't have right to be upset about middle America and the people who elected Donald Trump. They're very upset with that, and I get it. But I've seen a couple movies, I feel like, this year where I feel like they're getting the sort of the filmmakers and maybe even some of the viewers are getting this sort of glee out of seeing like Trump sort of voters, middle America getting like attacked and getting beaten down and getting like that somehow like they're so angry and they want to like get this sort of revenge on this group of people, middle America. And so like there's literally scenes where the lead character you're supposed to like kicks teenagers in the groin, like I don't know, and like she attacks a sheriff station, and that's supposed to be charming, I guess. I don't know. There's a scene where a character goes and throws a gay man out of a window and beats him to like a bloody pulp for no reason. And I was just like, and I guess that was supposed to be funny, but I found it kind of hateful, and I don't know. The only character that I really liked in this movie was the Peter Dinklage character, because I feel like he was the only one that called everyone out on their crap. Everyone else loves it. I didn't love it. Sorry. So there you go.
Yeah. So I've actually seen this twice. I watched it again last night. I think that your perception of what type of movie it's supposed to be is not my perception. I think it's mostly a drama with
interesting
moments. I don't find it as a dark comedy. So
okay.
The things you were talking about that you thought were supposed to be funny, I don't think they're supposed to be funny. Like I heard gasps in the audience when this guy is thrown out of the window and beaten up. You're not supposed to laugh at that. It's supposed to be like a very heavy movie about a topic that's topical, for lack of a better word.
Maybe it was partly because my theater was like super boisterously laughing, so that may have like given me the wrong impression. But my theater was laughing a lot, and the stuff that I was just like, what?
They didn't laugh at the violent parts like that, did they?
Some of the violent parts, yeah, they laughed. I can't remember if they laughed at the window part, but a lot of the parts that, like, I don't know, so maybe that might have also affected sort of my feeling like, boy, I'm missing something in this comedy thing because I'm not getting it. So I was with a pretty boisterous crowd that was.
The main character, Mildred, I thought, I don't want to say she was one note because there were different facets to her. But for me, like, even when she was angry, which was most of the movie, she still had this charm to her. So I really like that's who I would give the Oscar to for Best Actress so far out of any movie I've seen.
Okay.
What's interesting is yesterday when I went to see this at our local art house theater, the person came out. They usually come out, somebody who works there, and they will introduce the movie and talk about upcoming movies. But she mentioned the fact that Sam Rockwell, to train for his role, he came to my town, Springfield, Missouri, and studied people here and did a ride along with police officers here. So it was interesting to watch that and think, oh, is this his perception of cops in Springfield, Missouri?
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I just felt like it was sort of an attempt to kind of assault people in that part of the world and sort of attack them because they're angry at what they believe and they're angry at what they did. And I don't know, that's just, and it was like a similar feeling that I got with Beatrice at dinner.
I personally think that you're politicizing it more than it was intended to be.
Okay.
For me, anger is about the fact that her daughter was murdered and she doesn't feel like anybody cares.
Okay.
I don't think it has anything to do with the election. Maybe the director, maybe the cast have their feelings about it. But for me, her could have been Republican as well, like for all I know. My main issues with it were that I thought it was a bit heavy-handed with its message of compassion and forgiveness, and it felt a bit forced upon the viewer. I still really enjoyed this movie, and I liked how it ended.
You liked the ending.
So I put this at number 6 for the year for me.
Wow, okay. Yeah, so we definitely really disagree on this, but like I said, I've been willing to see it again from a different perspective and try it again. And I'll have to put my blog in. Actually, pretty proud of my blog on this one. I think it was pretty well written. So I'll put a link down if people want to check that out. I have it at 95. So we're definitely on different pages with this one. Yeah, so there you go. I love Lucas Hedges in this. Again, he's just great. I think he's a great young actor. So this little movie called this is another blog I'm very proud of. This movie called Son of Bigfoot, because this is an animated film that if you just see like it on Redbox or whatever, you'd probably be like, that looks like a terrible movie. But I gave it a shot and I really liked it. It's not like the greatest movie I've ever seen, but it was solid. It was well done. The animation was good. It had a good message. It didn't have any like celebrity voices, which was actually really refreshing and really nice. And it had like a heartwarming story. It had a good story. It's basically about this kid that he has this like super bushy hair. He has a single mom, and there's just this mysteriousness about his dad. He thinks his dad is dead, and obviously it's called The Son of Bigfoot, so this is not like a huge spoiler, but like he ends up finding these like letters from his dad to his mom, and he's like, what's going on? And so he goes out into the forest, and he ends up finding his dad, this mysterious Bigfoot character, whatever. And so he's trying to figure out what's going on with his dad and why he became Bigfoot and, you know, all the things. And it does have sort of a kind of a lame, like sniveling corporate villain. And there's sort of a bully plotline that doesn't work, but I really liked it. I liked the music was really good in it. I liked it a lot. And it was just such a cool experience because I always love it. Because I feel like so often on my blog or on my channel, I'm like kind of you're critics, and so you have to be sort of critical of certain things. And so this was so exciting to just feel like I'm introducing this thing to you that you probably would just judge, but I'm like gonna, you feel like you're doing something good. You're celebrating something. You're introducing people to something. And I really liked it. I gave it's number 23 on my ranking. Justice League was an epic release. Justice League, I have not liked any of the movies in the DCU except for Wonder Woman, which I loved. And so I was going to this nervous. And I actually, it's a hot mess. Like, the visuals are a hot mess. The story, the plot are a hot mess. It's not a good movie. I can't say it's a good movie, but I was entertained enough by it. And I was so happy with Superman in this movie, because I am not like Superman in this DCU at all. I really was depressed for a week after seeing Man of Steel, and I was very depressed after they killed Superman. That made me very angry. And he's just been so mopey and awful and not Superman. And so when he, in this movie, when he gets up there and he's like, I am fighting for truth and justice, I was like, yes. I mean, I literally cheered. I yes, because that's what I've been wanting all of this time, and it was so exciting. So I don't know. I liked it more than most, I guess, but I admit that it's not a good movie. But League is at 62 in my ranking. What about you?
Okay. Well, it's funny because I feel like I'm going to be more critical of it than you are, but yeah. I actually have it ranked higher than you.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and say I have it at 52, which is a B- for me.
Okay.
I've always been more of a DC person, so I've been rooting for these movies, even though they've been disappointing. I actually think there was a lot wrong with this.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, most of the characters didn't work for me. I liked Batman in Batman versus Superman. I thought he was one of the best parts. He was one of the worst parts of this movie.
Yeah.
Justice League, it had a lot that I was disappointed in. I didn't like Batman this time. I liked him in Batman versus Superman, but it felt like Ben Affleck didn't want to be in this movie.
Yeah.
I thought Wonder Woman was disappointing this time, and I don't blame the actress. I just don't think she was given much. I didn't see what you saw about Superman. I thought, first of all, I thought his mouth was very distracting, and I couldn't figure out why for the longest time. What's wrong with his mouth? Why does it look? And then I figured out afterwards that he had a mustache, which they digitally removed in post-production. So I was like, oh, okay.
But he was a way more positive character, though, than had been seen in the past. Didn't you think? You didn't think it was?
Sure, but I don't know that that's what I needed or wanted from him.
I needed it very bad. I guess it shows how much I detested his character in these other ones, personally. So it meant a lot to me. I was actually crying. When he said truth and justice, I was just like, yes! I was so excited. That's Superman. Superman's truth and justice in the American way. That's who the character is. And so this mopey, I hated Superman in these movies. So I was very excited about that. But I get it. I understand. The movie is very flawed. So
parts of the movie where Ezra Miller is a Flash.
Yeah, he was fun.
And Momoa is Aquaman, which I'm really excited about Aquaman after watching this movie.
Really? See, so he was fine. He was good, but I thought he was way underused. But I thought the scenes in Atlantia make me nervous about Aquaman because.
But gosh, who is it that's directing Aquaman?
James Wan.
That's right. He's already come out and said that he's not going to do things the way.
Oh, good. Okay, that's good because they have to make a bubble to talk. You're like, what?
That's not going to happen in Aquaman.
Okay, good. Because I'm they live under the water. How does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
But yeah, the worst part of the film was the villain.
Yeah,
It just looked like a video game villain, you know?
Yeah.
I didn't like the CGI. Why do they have to rely so much on CGI?
That was Zack Snyder. I mean, the special effects and the action scenes in this movie were Zack Snyder. And also, like, the color palette was very Zack Snyder, very orange and gray. And yeah, and it was really bad. It looked terrible. And there were some green screen things that you're just like, $300 million. You had $300 million.
It felt like everything was green screen, even the things that they could have used like a normal, like the Batcave looked green screen to me. The whole thing did.
Yeah, like there were a lot of people that gave Wonder Woman crap for the final battle CGI mess, and I get it. It wasn't great, but like I was so emotionally invested in the story and in her growth that I didn't care. But like this is way worse than that. I'm good. Like actually, I don't know if it's necessarily way worse than that. They both look pretty bad, but this is just throughout the whole movie, where that's like at least just the end, you know, a little bit at the end. This is the whole movie. The special effects were not great. I've heard great things. What did you think?
I had heard great things too. People are already talking about an Oscar for Mary J. Blige. So I went into this with high expectation, and I think the theme of this podcast is if you have high expectations, you're going to be disappointed. So I was a little disappointed.
Okay. Secret to happiness in life, low expectations.
Right. It just didn't feel like it brought anything that I haven't seen in this type of movie a million times. There were characters that I really, really hated, which I guess that's a good thing, but at the same time, I don't want to hate somebody so much that it's like taking away from me enjoying the film, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Mary J. Blige was anything spectacular. She did a fine job. She did her job as this character that didn't have a very demanding role. I don't understand at all how she is getting Oscar buzz. It was just a fine performance.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard for me to say that this is a bad movie because it's not. It just didn't do a ton for me.
Yeah.
I still gave it a B, and I gave it a 49, or it's a 49.
49. Okay. I'll have to check it out. So then next we have Roman J. Israel Esquire, the Denzel role. You know that Denzel Washington has only had 3 movies over 85% on the tomato meter? Isn't that surprising?
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was on a game show, and I got that wrong. Yeah. Anyway. But yeah, what do you think of Roman J. Israel Esquire?
Okay, this is an interesting movie. This is by the same director and writer that did Nightcrawler. I'm not sure if you saw that.
I know.
Oh, Nightcrawler, I freaking love.
Mm-hmm.
So I was hoping that this would be good, but I saw that everything I read said it's not as good as Nightcrawler. So I knew not to have that high of expectations.
Yeah.
Still, when I went into it, it didn't take me long to realize that the character of Roman J. Israel Esquire is quite possibly one of the most complex characters I've ever seen in a film.
Oh, okay.
What the writers did with this character and what Denzel did with it is so great.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no reason in my mind that Denzel Washington shouldn't be nominated for an Oscar for this role. I think it's his best role he's ever done by far. But he's not getting any Oscar hype, and I think that's because of the movie as a whole. Roman J. Israel Esquire, the character, is so much bigger than Roman J. Israel Esquire, the movie. The plot that they came up with was way too small for this character, and that's what was disappointing for me.
Okay.
I gave it a C+, and that's mostly because anytime Roman was talking, or you were just seeing him react to things, it's enthralling. Like, it's a masterclass performance, I would say. all of my friends left saying the same thing. We didn't love the movie, but we
Mm-hmm.
loved what Denzel Washington did. So I think it's worth watching just to see how good of an actor Denzel Washington is. Um, so I would still recommend it. I put it at 61 for the year.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, that's interesting. Sometimes that happens. So the next one is Wonder, and I have a little bit of an unpopular opinion on this. So I should love this movie because I was a bully victim as a child, something I very relate to, but I think maybe in a way, like when something is so personally connected to your life, like maybe you scrutinize it a little bit more, like you maybe find it even harder to relate to than maybe other people. I don't know. But like, I didn't love the book. I thought the book was very and they are very true to the book. And so I had problems with Augie as a character because I felt like he was very like, I thought he was very like placated to in a way that wasn't necessarily the most healthy. Like he is very sensitive to the lightest thing. And I get that like it's tough because I experienced it myself. But like I did feel there was one scene where the sisters like everything in the world is not about you. And I felt like, oh my gosh, thank you. Somebody said it. Because like just because you have special needs doesn't mean that you're better than everybody else and that you should be treated extra great. Like you should be wanted to be treated like everyone else. And I felt like this movie expected him to be treated better than everybody else. And they even at the end, I didn't see any reason why he deserved that award at the end more than any other kid. In fact, I think like I felt like everyone went out of their way to be nice to Augie, except for a couple characters. Like the school administration. They even had like these kids take off their summer break to give him a special tour of the school and make him especially welcome. And like, I think in a way, like some of those kids that were nice to him and reached out to him were like more deserving of the award than Augie was with this movie, because it's supposed to be all just loving and wonderful and nice, and it does have lovely moments. And I thought the sister was way more interesting and a way better character, and I loved her performance, and I wish the movie had been about her. I thought her little romance was great. I actually liked both Owen Wilson and Julia Roberts as the parents. I thought they were good. But I don't know, it just bugged me. I felt like he was they expected him to be treated better than everybody else, when I think the goal should be to treat everybody like everybody. Everybody should be treated the same.
Okay, well, first of all, you are being the Grinch. I disagree with you on a lot of things.
Okay.
Sure, they were placating him a lot. They were coddling him a lot. But I think that's realistic to what would happen with that type of person. Like they would need to be coddled a lot. I've seen people who in real life who have much less to worry about in their life that are still being coddled and protected from the world. So I think it's realistic that they would do that. I don't think he necessarily had entitlement issues despite all of that. He had natural fears that anybody would have if they looked like him. I don't think he looked normal at all. He didn't look atrocious, but if you were to see that person on the street, they would catch your eye and you would look at them and realize.
I don't know. To me, he was just like cute little Jacob Tremblay. Like I don't know. Like I don't know. I didn't feel that way. I thought that he looked like a cute little kid. So maybe I'm just, I don't know.
But I thought all of the actors did a pretty strong job in this. What I liked about the movie, and I didn't expect, is that it would be so much about the sister as well. I thought it would be just about the boy, but it seemed like it was almost as much about her as it was about him. And even other characters, it was about them as well. Each, like several different characters got their own little feature in the film. So yeah, I think that only Well, this is what I thought before, but now I'm starting to change my mind. I thought only the most jaded person wouldn't like this movie, but I wouldn't consider you jaded, and you'd like it. So.
Yeah, I know. What can I say? I don't know. I just felt like I don't know. I wasn't that high on the book either, so maybe I'm just the wrong audience. And okay. I just felt like every other character was more interesting than Augie, and that's a risk that you take having different narrators, and that's a risk the book took. The book has even more narrators, and I was just like, oh. The book has like the boyfriend has his whole own set of chapters, and I don't know. Yeah, I'm a terrible person. So I wasn't crazy about this movie. I get why other people love it though, so that's fine. But I have it at number 70 on my ranking.
Okay. I have it at 42.
Okay. Yeah. So there you go. Okay, so then we have The Star. The Star, I was not a big fan of. The only thing that excites me about The Star was that I got a local, I guess a local magazine, you might say, that published my review of The Star. So that was sort of exciting. So this, I think let's see here. Yeah. So I think the Mary and Joseph parts of this work really well. I think they're reverent, they're soft, they're moving, they work. I think good vocal performances from Gina Rodriguez and Zachary Levi, great. It was a little distracting for me because I kept thinking of Flynn Rider all the time. Joseph and Flynn Rider, but it was still good. They're very good. Those scenes really worked, but the animal stuff, not a big fan. I thought it was just really like, I don't know, all these like chases and pratfalls and jokes, and you've got like a twerking dove, and you've got like, it was boring. It wasn't funny. I didn't like it, and I didn't think the animation was very good. I did think the music was pretty good. I liked the soundtrack quite a bit. If you like, Christmas carols and Christmas songs, that was good. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would rather watch like a VeggieTales movie, to be honest, of the same story, because those are actually pretty funny and the jokes work. And this just, it was like 10% nativity story and 90% lame animal road trip hijinks movie. And 10% Jesus story, like that. 90% didn't like that. So, yeah, I couldn't in good conscience put this above The Boss Baby, which I really didn't like. And so I have this at 116 on my ranking.
Okay. I actually disagree. I thought it was more 20% Mary and Joseph, which is more than I expected. I thought they would take any opportunity to make this more mainstream and push the Mary and Joseph story to the side. I thought it was going to be a whole movie about these animals living in a barnyard, and then Mary and Joseph come in at the last minute, which it followed them from the start, from where Mary finds out that she's going to be having the Messiah.
Yeah, those parts worked. That was good.
Yeah. So I can't fault them for that. I didn't think it was a good movie, though, regardless. Yeah, the animal stuff was a bit much. I did like Ruth, the sheep. She was one of the few animals that I liked.
Yeah.
Even though she wasn't even that important of a character. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this.
Yeah, where did you rank it?
I put it at 96.
Yeah, so we're not that far off on it.
Right.
It's not great. Like if you are looking for something to entertain your kids during the holidays, there's so many other better films. But like if this was direct to DVD, I might be a little more forgiving of it. Breadwinner, this actually comes out, I saw an early screener. So it comes out in Utah on the 1st of December. But this was a beautiful film based on a book, and it's about this girl who is a Afghani, and her family ends up, her father gets arrested, and so they literally, like, the women can't leave the house unescorted, or they'll get like beaten, and like gets super intense. And so they have no men in the house, like they have to get food and stuff. So what are they going to do? And so she basically like cuts her hair and disguises herself as a boy, and so that she can sell things, but then also go and get food and stuff. And it is a loose adaptation of the book, I have to say. But I thought it was beautiful. I thought, because she also tells these sort of stories to entertain her siblings, and her mom is like super depressed and bedridden basically because of her depression. And so there's all these like really emotional moments, but then there's also these fantasy moments of these stories that she tells, and they were beautiful. The animation is stunning. It also has a female director. It's one of those ones I was telling you about. And I loved it. I thought it was amazing. And I thought I ended up putting the Breadwinner at 14.
Okay.
Yeah, the only like issue I have with it is they kept it from being top 10 is because sometimes this meshing of the fantasy and the real life wasn't perfect. It was a little jarring. But other than that, it was great. And I did a podcast with my friend Conrado on this film that you guys should check out if you're interested. Next, we have Coco. And I was a little nervous about this because the trailers were not very good, and they did a pretty terrible job marketing this movie, in my opinion. But I ended up loving it. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was visually stunning. I thought the story had such heart, but it was also funny. And I actually like bought the twist that they have. It wasn't like super original, but like I was okay with it. And I liked all of the characters, and I thought that Hector was an amazing character. And I wasn't like, because people were like, you're gonna bawl your eyes out, and I'm like, 2/3 of the movie I'm like, I'm not crying yet. What's people crazy? And then, oh my gosh, there's like a certain moment where I was like, boom, I'm like crying. And it was like, so
which
good.
moment that is, I bet.
What's that?
I bet I know which moment that is.
I bet you do too. And I thought it was great. I loved it. I loved the characters. I loved the music. Remember Me. Oh, so good. I learned a lot. I didn't know all this about the Day of the Dead, even though I've seen Book of Life, which it has literally almost nothing to do with the Book of Life, which is so ridiculous because like it's totally different story than the Book of Life, just has to have a similar setting. And yeah, I thought it was just great. Amazing. I love it. I think it's so good. And I have it at number 1. It's the best movie I've seen this year. Yep.
Wow.
I loved it.
I actually have this at number 100. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I really enjoyed this movie as well. And I told you it would be good. You were skeptical, but I was like, it's going to be good.
You did. This is true.
Yeah, I thought visually it was great. It was a clever story. The music in the film was great. I thought really there's nothing not to like about it. So it definitely ranks high for me. I put it at number 12 for the year.
Nice. That's awesome. Okay, yeah, so the last one is The Man Who Invented Christmas. And this movie is like completely in my wheelhouse of stuff I like. It's British. It's about Christmas Carol, which I love Christmas Carol. I did on my blog in 2014, I did an entire month just devoted to Christmas Carol. I watched over 30 versions. And so I thought, and I said Christopher Plummer and Dan Stevens, and I really liked it. I thought it was super fun. I thought it was very entertaining. I liked sort of getting in the head of Charles Dickens and like also sort of his backstory about his father and his work in the factory, and him trying to figure out kind of how to write this book under this short time and dealing with all this stuff. And I just really liked it. I thought it was very entertaining. So yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was a good movie. Unlike Goodbye Christopher Robin, I didn't feel like this is a story that needs to be told.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they still did a pretty good job with it. They had some interesting techniques with having the characters kind of follow him around. So it was good. It did make me a little bit sleepy at times.
Okay.
I may have dozed off for like a couple of minutes,
Interesting.
but
Okay.
still overall it was a pretty good movie, and it's great for people like you.
Yes. Like I said, if I'm going off of like the best movies, I wouldn't rank it this high. This is just off my favorites. And this is totally a movie that I could imagine watching every year. I'm totally going to buy it on Blu-ray. And so that has to count for something. And I have it at number 11. I really liked it. It was just very entertaining and something that I really enjoyed. So yeah, I have it at 11.
Nice. I have it at 76.
Okay. So you would have that. So that's fresh though. That's Smile, right?
You were breaking up, so I didn't catch everything.
So that would be Smile worthy for you.
Yes, it would be. Yeah, it's a C for me.
Okay, good. All right, I can understand. And so that's it. We did it. We got through it. Woo! That was. Thank you so much, and you're amazing. I don't know how you watched so many in such a short time. You're incredible.
Yeah, and most of them were in the past month.
I know that was very impressive. So great job. Thank you so much. And so how can people find you?
I'm on Twitter, the David Healy. You can also find me on Facebook and Film Freaks. I think the name is facebook.com/Film Freaks Group.
Yeah, great. Yeah, definitely join that group. It's a lot of fun. And we will be getting together sometime, and it's a crazy time during this time of year. We'll be getting together sometime to talk about winter movies, so we'll let you know when that's going to happen. And you can find me at Smiling LDS on social media and at 54 Disney Reviews on my blog. I'll put on a link down to the blog in the description section if you want to check out something like my Wonder review and 3 Billboards review. If you want to read all my controversial opinions, check it out on there. And so thanks again for joining me. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. And there were quite a few really fun movies this fall.
I agree.
Okay, great. Well, we will talk again soon.